I'm Griffin. I'm the graphic designer at Corridor Digital. 50 to 75% of what I do is make thumbnails.
Thumbnails. We can spend literally months working on a video, and it's not remotely as important as the thumbnail.
I start working on a thumbnail as early, usually, as I can get away with, because I love to work ahead on stuff. The showrunner for that channel and like the director of that video talk about what the thumbnail should be like. How do we show that in a picture and pair that with a title?
Why we gave up on Hollywood. How do we sell that story in a thumbnail, right? Do we go dark and dramatic? Do we do depressing? Trying to tell a story with an image.
Sometimes I'm really lucky, like the video's director will just be like, here, this is a perfect thumbnail. Photoshop this so it looks really clear. Perfect. You don't need to really mess with that. I make something that's like 50% of the way there. Put it in the thumbnail chat. Sometimes other people will weigh in.
What often happens in this process is last minute you get someone who's very passionate coming in and just tearing down the whole thing.
Like that.
We call it the Gorski wins.
I don't even respect you enough to face you.
And it blows away all the weak ideas.
What should we do for a thumbnail? And then everyone was like, oh, well, let's just do the YouTuber. I'm having a dramatic moment in my car filmed with a selfie camera. Like this, I made a mistake. It's like reaching for the camera.
Reaching for the camera to turn it on.
Oh man.
It's time to talk.
It's time to speak. I said a very bad word.
Stupid.
You can't take this word back once you say it.
That subscription button.
Please don't cancel it.
Notification squad.
I'm leaving YouTube for a few minutes. Then I'm coming back.
A decent amount of the time, I have to do some really low-level photography, grabbing a camera, making people pose, making them do big YouTube faces.
Ooh, haha. It works.
True, it does tend to work.
Did you know that all thumbnails are fake, not screenshots from actual videos?
If it's giving a false promise of what the video is actually gonna provide, that's called clickbait, and people hate clickbait. So you gotta make sure that it's at least relevant to what the video is giving you. But that gets hard if your video maybe doesn't have enticing imagery in it.
We're just sitting on a couch. There's nothing engaging there as far as like giving you context as to what we're talking about. So we're constructing an image right now that closely ties into the theme.
So Griffin's working from home. He doesn't have much time to put this thumbnail together, so we want to get him the best assets we can. So we're going to shoot some pictures.
Sam's like, let's just do walking away from the Hollywood sign as it explodes. We're gonna be holding our cameras, kind of like swaggering.
We just committed a federal offense.
Griffin's going to Photoshop
They used the wrong photos. Yeah, we got a bunch of straight ones, and then Dean was like, hey, let's do a goof one or two at the end, and these are just the goof ones. We're not gonna actually use the goof ones, sorry.
All good. Hey Griff, if you guys have those photos, maybe focus on that instead.
I thought it's gonna be like blowing up and shit. That's what we shot for. I'm assuming that's what you communicated to Dean.
Griffin has to take pictures of us and then whatever he can find on the internet and build a story out of it. And you know, the Hollywood sign's on a mountain. It doesn't make for good composition. So he has to kind of invent a new version of the Hollywood sign a little bit, or kind of work with the mountain and get it working. It's a little tricky. I think he'll get there. I think it's just a matter of communication.
I'll make it work. I'll find a way to get depth in that background.
Yeah. Griffin has a hard job.
It really was no one's fault. If anything, kind of COVID's fault. When you're working in a separate place and no one can just kind of like stop by, it's a little bit harder to get it in front of people and kind of get that read. The communication kind of breaks down a little easier.
Things that generally get people to click on a thumbnail are things that people identify with.
Big faces, anime lines, apparently the color teal just lead to better performance.
Faces, hands, mouths, eyes, bright colors, explosions. Basic things that trigger the human psyche. Symbology is really powerful. You can absorb information much, much faster from a symbol than from a word.
There really is like a weird pseudo-psychology to how it works, but it's half art, half intuition. You could make the most perfect thumbnail and then the analytics show it not doing well. I don't know if it's something you ever can like truly 100% master.
The last thing to happen is the thumbnail, always. We're trying to get better. We generally are better than we used to be. And at least we have Griffin now. Jesus Christ. Carmichael and I used to have to do the thumbnail after we're done with the video. It'd be like 10 p.m.
Nick would have to take a whole half day to do the thumbnail, and that's, at the end of the day, one of the most important things about the video.
The title makes a big difference too.
It's a fishing metaphor. You have your bait, your clickbait.
People hate clickbait.
But I'm not trying to be in a cynical sense, but you actually have your bait, which entices you. That's a tasty, spicy thumbnail. And you read the title like, ooh, that's a good hook to the title. You just got me.
I know, it's like reading the nutrition facts on like a box of cookies and you're like, ooh, these are healthy too. They have vitamins. That's what a good title should do. Reinforce that thumbnail is worth clicking on.
Boom. So this is great. So Nico just said the thumbnail is banging. This was Griffin's first iteration, but now Griffin has 30 minutes to work on it before the week is done. So I'm gonna call up Griffin. My eye goes right to the middle of that explosion, and then it's not that big. Besides that, the Hollywood's reading pretty well. This is how you...
This is an important part of the process. Can you read it from far away?
I would say prioritize the explosion.
There's like a part of me that wanted to make it photo real and like perfect, but then the other part of me is like, it's working as a tiny thumbnail pretty damn well. And
Yeah.
You could scale the Y up a lot and have it like motion blurred a little bit.
That's a good idea.
If someone has a good idea, I'm not gonna just be like, no, I'm the thumbnail guy. You can get out of here. Sometimes I get tunnel vision. You stare at a screen so long, your eyes turn to mush. So I'm really open to input.
I put shadows for the airborne letters, which probably no one will notice.
You got so realistic on us. Now make the explosion bigger.
It's an important video. Gotta get those clicks.
What a guy.
Are there any misconceptions about making thumbnails?
That's a dumb question, Daniel.
That's a really good question. A common misconception about thumbnails is that they're easy to make.
People think there's formulas. There certainly are like formats.
I think that's partly why the VFX React videos do so well, is because it's always the same exact format thumbnail.
That's the only reason we're able to put them out every week is because we have our format down. Big face, 1 to 2 subjects on the side. We'll have the guys on the bottom, the top title. Finding something that you know works on YouTube is like finding a unicorn. The more consistent the content, the more subscribers are gonna come back every single time. This is the show you like. Go watch it.
The crew videos, especially the vlogs over the last several years, were way more inconsistent. They were all over the place, and we were always struggling to come up with good thumbnails.
If you scroll down through the video page, you can see the tectonic layers. Early 2019, we're trying to like portray more of like a science channel or educational channel. We had the blue period, not Picasso's blue period, much worse than that. And then there was a whole period where we used the yellow orange paintings as the backdrop. It's just Nico's aunt's painting. Oh, here's the split screen era. This was a Carmichael special here because we had 2 stories. We've tried a lot of wacky schemes, and this is the first. Like the early days of the vlog, it was just big white letters. They were just a lot jankier and looser at the beginning, like everything. Crazy how many videos there are. This is my last thumbnail that I did on the channel. Once all your creativity has been drained, pouring it into this video and the editing and the uploading, Adobe, sometimes it can just be a real slog. So having someone whose creativity and energy is 100% put into making these thumbnails look great, it's awesome.
Griffin is great because he is a Photoshop master. Griffin usually has a pretty good intuition on what kind of like looks good, what pops, what draws your eye. He's very visual in that regard.
He's got the eye. He's got the eye. He has the eye.
Griffin. He's like a quiet storm. He sits at his desk all day, dropping gems. And he's doing so many things at once. He's doing 5 different thumbnails. He's doing portrait shots of all the employees. Anytime I need a graphic to send to a brand, I don't know what kind of like wizard stuff he's doing over there, but that man is talented. Very, very talented. And he keeps his company going for sure.
It performed really well. 700,000 views in the first day, which is pretty crazy.
It went really well. There's definitely a buzz going on among the fans.
I think those guys did a really good job putting that together. Catches your eye, captures the attitude. Pretty good reception. Good job, Griffin.
Favorite thing to do outside of work. Still do enjoy drawing. Notice a lot of times when I draw people, they look sad, and I'm doing okay. Don't worry. It's not a reflection of who I am as a person. Get an idea. I think about it way too hard for a week. Give up, never gonna be an artist. Come up with something really simple. Start drawing, looks horrible. The worst thing I've ever made. I quit art again. You hit this point, or at least I do. Some people are just good. It goes from the worst thing I've ever drawn to starting to actually look good. And that's when I get really excited and just fall into it. It's really fun and rewarding to get to take kind of my lifelong passion for art and for making cool pictures and actually have a way to put food on the table with that. The harder I try to make something good, the more mediocre it turns out, and the more fun I have making something, the better it turns out. And this is a pretty easy place to have fun.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of Crew Cuts. Next week, Sam dives more into Unreal Engine and his virtual production journey. It's a fun one, but you don't have to wait till next week. You can watch it right now on quotadigital.com. You can watch everything we put out, including our current vlogs. But if you missed last week's video, it's right here on YouTube. You don't have to wait for that either.